Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to the Elevate Your Soul podcast. Today, I'm continuing on with the Ayurveda series, and I'm going to go over the chakra system with you. And I won't be doing this alone because I don't know too much about the chakra system, or I didn't before I had this interview with Rachel. So I am going to be interviewing Rachel White on the chakra system. She knows so much. She has so much knowledge on the chakra system. And today we're going to go over all the 7 different chakras and how we can balance them out so that we can live a more fulfilling, healthy, and sustainable life. Rachel White is also a soul coach, yogi, and an author and host of the Gentle podcast. You can find some of the work she does, such as her coaching programs or online yoga, on her website at www.byrachelwhite.com, or you can also find her on Instagram if you have any more questions to ask. You can find her at byrachelwhite on Instagram. I hope you guys enjoy this episode and can learn lots from it. Hello, Rachel. Welcome to the Elevate Your Soul podcast.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me on such a short notice as well.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Can you tell us what elevates your soul?
What elevates my soul is, like, this is going to sound really cheesy, but seeing people just like stepping into their power and living their purpose. And like, I really love it when I get to be a part of that journey. And yeah, that's the first thing that comes to mind when I think of my soul being excited and elevated.
Yeah, contributing. That's a huge fulfillment. That's a really good way to feel fulfilled in life.
Yeah.
For sure. Can you tell us a bit about you and your story and what you're doing now in your life and where you come from?
Yeah, definitely. So at the moment, I am a soul coach, yogi, author, and podcaster
Wow,
running my online business. Yeah, a little bit, a few labels there.
awesome. I love that.
Um, yeah, so I'm running my online business I live in Mildura, which is this little country town near Melbourne in Australia.
Yeah.
And where I kind of my story getting to this point is, like, this time last year, my life looked really differently. I was working as a professional accountant for almost 8 years. And while I was working professionally, I did like my life coach training, I did my yoga teacher training. And for about like 3 or 4 years, I've been really diving into my like mindset, spirituality, and all of those things.
Yeah.
And yeah, last year it was just kind of like a tipping point where I really thought, like, I don't want to live kind of like this double life anymore, where in like my full-time job, I felt like I was being forced to be like this person who I wasn't. And when I say forced, like, that's how it really felt at the time, even though looking back, it was my choice to be there. And there were definitely some amazing experiences, but it wasn't my soul work. And I kind of knew that.
Can you describe the type of role that your career or your job was wanting you to be that wasn't really you?
Yeah, just like profession, like the way they defined how to be professional.
Right.
And I guess like 'cause I had like business clients, and I wanted to talk to them about like how they were nourishing themselves and like looking at their stress, but I was just expected to just talk about the numbers, like just talk to them about like the numbers in their business. And like a big thing was the being there from like 8 in the morning to 6 at night. Like, I am just not designed to work full-time hours, I feel, but I was expected to be switched on at my highest energy, like for over 40 hours a week, every moment that I was there. And it didn't feel good for me at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I feel like I'm really designed to like be a leader and come up with new ideas. And it's real hierarchical, like I just had to do what I was told, basically. And I have a real resistance to that. I feel like I want to be my own leader at all times.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. So, and
Mm.
that led you to being an entrepreneur, basically.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm just destined to be my own boss, make
I
my
love
own
it. I love
rules.
it. Was that a hard transition or was it easy?
I feel like because for like 3 years while I was working as an accountant, I was kind of laying the foundations. Like I did all my training, I was casually coaching, casually teaching yoga a few times a week. And
Yeah.
because I had those foundations set up, it was like an easier transition. Like there was definitely like there was a big adjustment like in my income, for example, and just like the space and time I had. um but yeah, I feel like because I had the foundations and because I knew the direction I wanted to go in, it was a little
Yeah.
bit easier than just kind of like giving up and leaving all at
Yeah, you
once.
weren't just at work one day and you're like, fuck this, I'm quitting, and like
Mm.
walked out and you're like, shit, now what do I want to do?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it wasn't
you
like
already
that at
had your
all.
soul, you already had your soul's calling in mind and clear for you.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's really good. All right, moving on to chakras now. Can you tell us where the concept of the chakra system actually originated from and how learning about it can improve people's health and energy levels?
Yes, I would love to talk. I love talking about chakras. And so your first question, where did the system originate from? So there is this kind of differs depending on like what different texts you read. Like some say that it originated in India like 5,000 years ago at the same time of the Vedas, and
Yeah.
then some other texts will say it was Egypt. Or and like I don't think it matters. Like the one common thing is that it was like at least 4,000 years ago that this energy system was developed. And even in like traditional Chinese medicine, they have the meridians, which is like similar but different. So there's always been this ancient understanding that we have an energy body and that it impacts our physical, mental, and spiritual body as well.
Yeah.
So what chakras are is an energy system in our physical body. So we have 7 main chakras, and we can think of each one as an energy center. And at the middle of each energy center is like a vital, condensed point of life force energy.
Yeah.
And each chakra governs certain aspects of our life, whether that's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual.
Ooh.
And they all work together as one system. So an analogy I like to use is, so I think I'm not sure how much kind of mindset stuff you've covered before, but I think it's pretty widely agreed on that our mind largely determines our reality. Like what we're
Yes.
thinking, our thoughts determine our actions. So
Mhm.
our mind plays such a big role in the life that we're living.
Yeah.
And if we think of our mind as a computer, so a computer has 3 essential parts to work optimally. It has the hardware, the software, and the power or the energy that runs the computer. So we can think of, using this computer analogy, the brain is the hardware of this
Yeah.
computer. The chakras are the software, and the power or the energy is our prana, life force energy. So if we're
Which
using a
is the breath.
computer, what's that, sorry?
Which is the prana's the breath, right?
Yeah, so we bring in prana through our breath, and that's what energizes our cells and energizes our body and energizes this chakra system.
Yeah.
So if we're using a computer and a piece of software on the computer isn't performing optimally, that not only like messes up the function we're trying to use, it can also mess up the other software systems and the system of the whole entire computer. And our brain is just the hardware, like the physical thing that kind of gives a physical form to this system. So maybe I'll get into, I'll talk about how the system works as a whole, but maybe first I'll go into what each of our 7 main chakras govern in our life.
Yes.
Sound
Please.
good?
Yes,
Yeah.
please. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So first we have the root chakra or the base chakra, which is located at the base of our spine. And this chakra vibrates at the color red. And the aspects of our life that it governs is our feelings of safety, security, stability. So this is our foundation chakra. If you think about, like, in school, I remember learning like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where it was like we can't achieve anything if we don't feel safe, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's what our chakra system tells us as well. If we don't have a strong foundation, whatever we build on top of that foundation will ultimately crumble or be wonky or just not perform optimally as
Not in
well.
alignment, right?
100%. Yeah.
Interesting. So it's your foundation. So when we're sitting, it's basically the root. Like if we're sitting down on our bums, it's kind of like we're sitting on our root chakra.
Yeah.
That's what's grounding
Yeah.
us. Okay.
And I really like to visualize like kind of like tree roots coming out of our root chakra and going into the earth. Like it's what is grounding us to nature, to Mother Earth. So like being in nature, grounding like on the sand or the grass is like really beautiful to energize this chakra.
Barefoot too, right? Because so many people go
Yeah.
like to these beautiful fields of grass or to the beach, and they're like, having these rubber or plastic shoes on with their soles, and it's like, no, like walking barefoot on nature, like
Yes.
that's what's really rejuvenating, and that's what really grounds you.
Yes, 100%. Having skin to the nature, like, or skin, sun on the skin, like it's so good. And it's so energizing for our body. And we just feel safe and supported by nature when we do that as well.
Yeah.
So with each of our chakras, they can be balanced, underactive, or overactive. And we want to always be working towards a state of balance. So with the root chakra, if our root chakra is underactive, so not enough life force energy, prana is being directed towards that chakra, we can feel like really disconnected, disorganized, like unfocused, and then that kind of generates these feelings of fear and anxiousness. We can feel like financial stress, fear that things aren't going to work out, and then we can become like really needy on the people around us to kind of fix our problems.
Right.
So when we have an underactive, not enough energy going to our base, our foundations, we feel fearful about pretty much everything in life, and then that's just creates that anxiousness and stress.
Right.
Whereas on the other,
so the root chakra stands for, that gives us that feeling of safety. And so when that's not enough, then we basically just feel like unsafe in our life.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And then if our root chakra is overactive, so we're directing too much energy to that foundation, that's when we can become really irritated by others and form this kind of greediness where, because we feel like we'll never be stable, because we feel like we'll never have enough, we just take and take and take as much as we can because of that fear of not having enough. We just like take as much as we can, and we can become really like materialistic and self-centered when we're directing too much energy to being like quote unquote safe. Even though we're completely safe, we don't feel like that, so we just take more.
So my question is when it's when you're saying you have too much energy in the root chakra, is it more like you feel too safe, or you also feel not enough safe, like as if it were too little?
So you ultimately don't feel safe. You feel like you will never be safe and that you'll never have enough to be safe. So that's when, like, it doesn't matter how much you have, you just keep taking more. Whether that is, well, when I say taking more, like, it doesn't matter how much money you're making, even if you're completely stable, you just don't feel safe. So you just want more. You continuously want more. And it's just, that's where you're directing your energy to needing more and taking more.
Nothing will ever be good enough.
Yeah, definitely. Whereas with the underactive, you still have that fear of not having enough, but it's like a needy feeling. Like you feel like you need other people to give it to you. Whereas the overactive is you need to take as much as you can.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to find the distinct difference between the two. So one of them, the one that has too little energy flowing in the root chakra, they feel unsafe and they feel like they're needy of other people, and also maybe perhaps codependent or dependent of other people.
Yes.
Yes. And then the other one is almost like a overachiever, over independence lover, and loves like doing everything on their own, and maybe not playing by the games, and taking from others.
Yeah. And underneath both of them is just a feeling, just fear of
Right.
there's
Exactly.
not
It's
enough
fear
for me
based.
to be safe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. So then when we go up to our second chakra, our sacral chakra, which is in our like lower abdomen, that vibrates at the color orange.
Yeah.
And this sacral chakra is the home of our feminine energy, our abundance, and our joy. And it's also the chakra that governs our ability to feel, regulate, and release our emotions. So it's such a beautiful chakra.
Yeah.
And when this one is underactive, we can create this feeling of just not wanting to be intimate with anyone, being overly sensitive, and just kind of wanting to push everyone away because we don't understand our own emotions. So
Yeah.
we don't want to bring other people into that like confused energy that we're in.
Yeah.
Whereas with an overactive sacral chakra, we can become like just addicted to short-term pleasure. So we're just craving like that adrenaline rush or an emotional rush, but we don't kind of look long term in terms of our emotions. We just want like quick fixes.
Yes.
Yeah. So
And are they?
when our,
No, you go.
I was just going to say, when our sacral chakra is balanced, we're in a state where we feel really comfortable with the full spectrum of our emotions. And when we're in that state, we also feel comfortable with our feminine energy because we feel like we can embody our emotions.
Yeah.
And when we can embody our emotions, that's when we can enjoy the human experience and call in abundance and joy.
Okay. So this is the. Do you? Is this the? So this is. I don't know if it's called the second chakra, the orange one. Does it have a name?
Yeah, the sacral chakra.
The sacral. Sorry. And is that one at all related to sexual energy? I thought one time I heard that.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it is. So, yeah, that is for yeah, our reproductive organs. So every chakra has like physical parts of our body related to it as well. So yeah, I haven't really touched on that, but yes, yeah,
Right.
there's so much that every chakra does. I'm trying to like condense it because
Oh,
yeah, we could
don't even
talk.
no, don't condense it. We got an hour. You can yeah, no, explain more. So the just jumping off the whatever. I was going to say jumping off the topic, but it is still to do with chakras. On your perspective from everything you've known about the chakra system so far, from your own perspective, in our society, in the Western world, is there a chakra that seems the most imbalanced in society at large?
That's such a good question, and I feel all of them. The root chakra, I
Yeah.
feel like the root chakra definitely, because like in definitely the Western world, like we're at a point in history where like we're the safest we've ever been, like in terms of like there's no real wars going on. Like there
Yeah.
we all have like most people, I'm speaking about the average
Yes,
person. Like I know
exactly.
there's
Exactly.
extreme like
Yes.
yeah, so on a large scale, like we're pretty safe. And even if like the worst thing happened, like there's so many resources and support
Yeah.
systems that, we're safe.
Yeah.
Yet we've never been so fearful. And it's like everyone's living with this anxiousness and fear, like
Right.
something's about to go wrong. And I feel like that's just when we look at our whole chakra system, we're creating that unstable foundation. And
Mm,
then that's into other parts of our energy coming out of alignment as well. And I
right.
think the other chakras that will be impacted by our unsteady foundation, I think that's kind of unique to the individuals and what they have going on and where they're directing their energy. But
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely feel like there's just this anxious energy even though we're safe.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There's no bear or wolf that's gonna jump at you any minute of the night or
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
There's
It's
just these like
perfect.
psychological stresses that it like even social media, like our emails, and they're all perceived stresses. But it's like,
Exactly.
I read this really interesting study that was saying that we all have the same exact stress response to the most stressful thing that's ever happened to us. So in
Yeah.
the past, the
Yeah.
most stressful thing that ever happened to someone was, I don't know, like maybe a lion was chasing them. But
Yeah.
now, if the most stressful thing that has ever happened to someone is someone didn't follow them back on Instagram, like as a silly example, if that's the most stressful thing they've ever experienced, they're
Yes.
going to have the exact same physical reaction as someone that has been chased by a lion. Like,
Yeah,
it's
it's
pretty
so
crazy.
true. It's so true. So really, you should just like throw yourself in a field of lions. That's what this podcast is about. It's like conquering your fears and living fearlessly. No. And
Yeah,
another
yeah,
question that I have is, I know the chakras kind of work as a system and one affects the other. And how you said the root chakra, that kind of affects all the ones above it because it's the foundation. But say, for example, one of the top chakra or the second top one on the highest part of the body, if they're not in alignment as well, will that affect the bottom and the root chakra as well, or not so much?
yeah. So yeah, definitely. They can all influence each other. So we have our bottom three chakras that are largely linked to our physical body. Then we have our top three chakras, which are mainly linked to our like spiritual, like divine source connections. And
Okay.
then we have the heart chakra that kind of links those two together. So
Right.
if we have one of our lower chakras, so we have like the root, then we have our feminine and our masculine. If
Yeah.
one of them are out of balance, like say, so our solar plexus, which is our third chakra at the center of our belly, if
Oh,
that,
the
so
solar.
that's,
Okay, so the other one, the sacral, is under the belly button. You,
yes, yeah,
and then the other one you just mentioned is what, above the belly button, or?
yeah. So the solar plexus is, yeah, just above the belly button, like
Okay,
in the
so
center of the
those two are
belly.
really close to each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And that solar plexus is our masculine energy, our personal power. So
Right.
if our personal power, if there's an imbalance in like how powerful and how confident we feel, then that's going to have an impact on, say, our throat chakra. Our throat chakra is about communicating and
Mm,
expressing. So if we don't feel powerful and confident, it can also cause imbalances in how we communicate and articulate ourselves.
of
And that
course.
can go the other way as well. Like if we don't have the energy flow to express our authentic self, then that can influence how confident we feel in ourselves, because if we're not connected to who we are. So it is
Right.
this like whole system where everything is interrelated.
Yeah.
Also with our heart chakra, so our heart chakra is about feeling love for ourselves and others. If we're feeling unbalanced there and not feeling love for ourselves, that can influence like how we speak, how we connect to our body, like how we feel in our foundations. Like,
Mm.
yeah, so they all influence each other.
Interesting. Yeah, it's a lot like the doshas in Ayurveda as well. It's like, or anything under Ayurveda, yoga, how the body affects the mind and the mind affects the spirit, and everything's connected and
Mm,
everything's linked. And although the chakra system, it's kind of like when you look at it on the chart and all the 7 different chakra systems and all their different colors, it's in a line, but because they're all connected, I like imagining it as though it's on a fetus, like a little baby, so that it's kind of round and circular, so that it's kind of like this wheel. And this
yeah.
circular energy that everything affects everything else, rather than like this straight up and down line. But that's just my own
Yeah.
little imagination going on there.
Yeah. So I think that like what you've just talked about is like the two different ways to look at it. So if we look at it as a circle, if each 7 chakras was 7 points on a circle, if any of those points were kind of moved in or out, and
Yeah.
you're thinking of a wheel, like the wheel wouldn't spin as efficiently if
Yeah.
one of like the axles was a little shorter or a little longer.
Right.
Yeah. But
Oh,
then when the reason that the chakras are in a straight line is because the first reason is they run up our spine. So we start at the first is at the root,
yeah.
the seventh is at the crown of our
Unless
head.
you're in a handstand, then it's all upside down.
Yeah. Yes. And how in like Indian philosophy, in the like Ayurveda philosophy, there's they picture chakra energy as like Kundalini energy, which is like a serpent. So there's like two, you might have seen like this symbol before, like two serpent snakes kind of going in and out along the spine, and then the head of the snake is at the crown of the head.
Right.
So it's said that when we have a Kundalini awakening, which is basically like an ascension pathway to enlightenment, each of our chakras will become fully activated. It will start from the root chakra going up to the crown, and it goes up towards our crown. And when they're all activated, we'll have a Kundalini awakening. And that's basically like when we're at peace on earth, like completely enlightened with no fluctuations of the mind. So that was kind of like an ascension path for Kundalini yogis.
Nice. And a lot of that for us is probably death when we get there.
Yeah.
All right. So you've done the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and then the next one is the third, the yellow one. I know it's color yellow. And then you said that was solar plexus.
Yes, so that's our solar plexus. So that is our masculine energy, confidence, personal power. So that's when it's balanced, we're just fully in our power and like confident within ourselves. When it's underactive, we take on this almost victim personality where we feel like we're just not good enough to do anything. We're always the victim, blah, blah, blah. And then on the other scale, on the other end of the scale, the overactive solar plexus becomes really narcissistic. So they think they're just too far in their power and they think they're better than everyone else.
So we both know which one is as a generalization weaker and stronger in men or male or female.
Yeah, I think men are generally more connected to their masculine energy, but sometimes they put too much of their life force into that masculine energy.
Yeah, and you can't blame them in our society and the way our society conditions them to be. So and one more question, actually, back on the sacral chakra, the orange one again, the one that's below our belly button, just because I know that like my audience loves hearing about sex and sexual things, because that's always gets everyone's attention. Because that one had to do with the sexual energy, I was just wondering, so if there's too little energy flowing in there, can that be related to, like, say, for example, someone with a low libido? And then if that energy is too high, can that be someone who's just like a sex addict, or does that not have anything to do with it?
Yes, like 100% what you just said. So
Okay.
Underactive, low libido, it can have like infertility issues. It really that energy. Yes.
Okay.
And the overactive, like being addicted to short-term pleasure, like becoming addicted to sex, can definitely fall into that.
Right. Interesting. All right. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on the solar plexus?
I don't think so, unless you have any questions.
Does that one have, so this is the one above our belly button, does this have anything to do with gut issues?
Yes. So that's such a good question. So the element of our solar plexus is fire, and in like Ayurveda, it's believed that we have like this fire at the center of our belly, and when that fire is like fully lit, our digestive system is like working perfectly. But when the fire is out, then we have like that slow and weak digestive issues, and that is linked to solar plexus energy. When we're in our power, we have that fire in our belly, that passion that's fueling us in our actions. But when we don't have that fire, then that causes all kinds of gut issues from the slowing down of the digestive system.
Interesting. And I relate that with the dosha pitta, which is the fire element, the fire dosha. And the pittas usually have the best digestion when they're in balance. You know, they have that digestion where they can just eat anything and they'll be fine. And I can imagine without that fire, you're not digesting your foods very well, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Definitely. Moving up.
Yeah. So next we have the heart chakra. So this is a really special chakra because it's the home like of our soul, and it links the physical to the metaphysical chakras in our body. And it really governs our feeling of peace, acceptance, love for others, and love for ourselves. And this chakra, when it's underactive, we can really like fear rejection and become really clingy and smothering, just like in this desperate attempt to hold on to people and the other people around us. And but with it, if it's overactive, then we control love again, but we become like possessive, manipulative, and dramatic. So both ends of that is like this fear of losing love. One just becomes like clingy, and the other becomes possessive and uses manipulation and control.
Interesting, because sometimes people can be both as well, right?
Yeah, and that's a good point as well, that it's not so our chakras have a constant flow of energy, so they can be open in one moment and close the next. They
Right.
can have little energy there in one moment and then a big energy flow in the next moment.
Interesting.
So they're never in a permanent state, but when we work on clearing and healing the chakras, we can get them to like a balanced state where they might like gently flow into either end, but they don't stay dominant in one area for too long. It's sort of constantly coming back to balance if we do that clearing and healing work.
Right. And what kind of things can we do to unlock or open up or balance our heart chakra?
One of the like most simple things that I do this every day, probably like multiple times a day. I do it for all my chakras, but for the heart chakra, so that is the color green. Just closing your eyes, taking your awareness to the center of your chest, and visualizing a green light there. And just see the green light getting bigger and brighter with every breath you take until that green light is covering your entire body. And it doesn't matter how long it takes, just keep breathing deeply until you see that green light opening. And that opens the heart chakra in that moment. And the more you do it, like little by little, you'll shift your energy. So that's a really simple thing that you can
Okay.
do.
Okay. And like lifestyle changes or um changing core beliefs or anything like that, like something more, what else could we do to help our heart chakra?
Yeah. So some things we could do is um, like when we think about love and acceptance, we can use affirmations to like affirm that we like love and accept ourselves. We can notice when we're being like judgmental of others and kind of question that if it's because we're actually judging ourselves, and then
Yeah.
transform that into acceptance.
Yeah.
It's really about, yeah, being accepting of yourself and others and bringing an awareness when you're out of alignment with that. So getting clear on like, if you commit to having a healed chakra system or the most healed chakra system you can, and bringing to awareness whenever you're having thoughts or taking actions that are out of alignment with that, then you just can bring that shift back to choosing to be compassionate, accepting, and loving of yourself and all other beings on this earth.
Right. So self-love has a huge part to play in that as well, clearly.
Definitely, because we can only love others to the degree that we love ourselves. So I think we
Yeah.
need to focus on loving ourselves first.
And we can only understand others as much as we understand ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Moving up. Next one.
Okay, so three more. The next one is the throat chakra, which is at our throat. And this is the color blue. So this governs our ability to communicate our authentic expression, how we express who we are out into the world. And if we have an underactive throat chakra, it's like people that are really low talkers, like can never really articulate exactly what they mean. And it
Yeah.
can also be like people that most of the things they say are like complaining about, like they don't know what to do. They can't articulate what they want, and then they get frustrated that people don't know what they want, but they don't communicate it. So that's like the underactive energy. And the overactive energy is kind of those people that are always speaking on top of others, that use their voice to degrade others and make themselves seem more important. And yeah, like working professionally, like there were so many people that I saw on both ends of that. So I feel like the throat chakra and just being able to express who we authentically are, I feel like that's a huge unbalanced chakra, like across the masses in
Oh
Western
my God.
society as well.
Massively, massively. And does it always have to do with speaking? Like, say, for example, if someone wants to express how they feel or communicate with someone, and they find other ways to communicate without voicing it, is that still related? Like, is any form of communication related to the throat chakra or only vocal?
Yeah, all forms of communication.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's super interesting. I feel like for me, that one was pretty low and closed until I started podcasting. And I remember before I ever started this podcast, I've been doing this for over a year now. I never really liked talking, and I never liked the sound of my own voice at all. And it was really hard for me as well to describe like anything, like whatever I had in my mind. It was so hard to describe and put it into words. And honestly, I still feel like I struggle with that a lot, but I'm getting so much better at it. And it's just like practicing doing it. And I don't like cough up and choke anymore. Like I remember like the first 10 episodes I did, I was like pausing the record button like every like 10 seconds and was like, oh my God, like I've lost my train of thought, or oh my God, I've said the wrong words, or like it was just so overwhelming for me. Like I could not do it, but it totally like increased my confidence in my throat chakra, I guess, because like I feel way more confident now, like to communicate, and it's a little bit easier for me to articulate my thoughts and like put my thoughts into words.
Yeah, that is such a beautiful story because it kind of highlights like one, how do you like taking action is the biggest road to clearing energy. Like we have to do something to shift our energy. And you also really highlighted how sometimes different chakras can help us out when other chakras are unbalanced. Like you probably really stepped into your solar plexus, your personal power,
Yeah.
and that energy like drove you forward when your throat was kind of just catching up and getting into that flow of communication as well.
Yeah. Or it would have been my heart chakra as well, being like,
Yeah.
self-love, you're worthy of this. And still my solar plexus was like, like imposter syndrome, who the fuck are you? And then that kind of
Yeah. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, so many people, and I used to definitely be like this as well, like have problems listening to our own voice.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. I read this thing the other day that it's like, so when we listen to other people's voices, like we're hearing it through our ears, but when we hear our voice, when we are listening to our own voice talking in real life, we're hearing it through our bones. So then when we hear a recording of our voice, we're hearing it through our ears. So it sounds differently. And that's why we're so uncomfortable with the sound. But now, because like I have a podcast as well, I record like online yoga videos, and like I listen to a recorded version of my voice a lot now. So I'm just used to it as just another voice.
Yeah.
But I feel like it stops a lot of people from getting started in things that are going to record themselves.
Totally. It's so funny. And I was just about to say as well, though, like it's all good, like having the confidence to actually speak and make a podcast and tell your story. But then again, there's that other imbalance where there's like too much in it and people are just like, oh my God, I just want to talk all the time. And everyone thinks I'm fascinating and everybody wants to hear what I have to say. It's like finding that balance. Very important.
Yeah, like that's probably a bit of the overactive throat chakra.
The overactive. Yeah. There's certain countries in this world where they probably have very overactive charge.
Yeah.
All right. What is the next one?
Okay, so the next one is our third eye. So in between our eyebrows on our forehead. And this is where our intuition lives. So I love connecting with this chakra. And it's like I really visualize like so this is an indigo, like a dark purple light. And I always visualize myself kind of going into the void of that light and just getting answers from my own intuition. Yeah. So when we are balanced here, we are open to receiving messages of our intuition and trusting that it is the right guidance for us to follow. Whereas when we're underactive in our third eye, we just have this, we manifest this distrust towards our inner knowing. And what that looks like externally is us constantly asking other people to confirm if what we're doing is like the right thing. So where that's like the people that are constantly going to like clairvoyants, fortune tellers, always asking their friends, like just always want.
If anyone knows my mom, that's my mom.
Yeah.
Not afraid to admit it on a podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but it's
That's
just
so
like
sad,
this yeah, and I feel like we all have such an innate ability to connect with our intuition. It's just when we create like this relationship with it where we don't 100% trust it, that's when we need that external guidance and validation, whereas we have all the answers within ourselves.
For sure. And sometimes it can depend on the topic. Like I feel like my whole life I've been super connected to that chakra. Like indigo and purple are my favorite color. Like I'm just obsessed with that color. And I feel like I've always been really intuitive, but then like certain times in my life where I've been like really low and depressed, which were all in the past, and like a certain topic, then you're just like super confused. Like so many other things, you know, the answers to, and you feel intuition. And then there's like a certain time in your life, you know, I guess when you get older, when like you start dating or you fall in love for the first time and it's like about romantic relationships, and you're like, oh my God, I need to ask someone else about this because this is all new to me and I'm not sure.
Yeah, we can all have those like moments of doubt, and yes, and sometimes we can be like conditioned to think we don't have the answers for things we haven't experienced, whereas our intuition is really like a limitless source of wisdom. So we could figure it out ourselves, but then also our intuition can also guide us to like mentors and a support system that can help us in our journey as well. It's just about when we have this huge distrust and we're worrying about not doing the right thing, that we can give our power away because we're not trusting ourselves and trusting that we can work anything we need to out. But we can also get support when we need it as well.
Exactly. I'm just wondering, do you personally believe that sometimes your intuition will guide you to do something that quote unquote will be a negative experience, but you needed to do that experience or go through that in order to have massive learning and insight from it?
Yeah, 100%. And like I have an example if you want me to share it
Yes,
from
please.
my life. Yeah, so it's kind of it's like a really long story, but I'm going to give you the short version. So in 2015, I got the opportunity to go and work in New Zealand for half a year as an accountant, and my everything kind of in the lead up was just like really going wrong. Like I was having bad experiences with the application process, talking to people that work there, and I had this feeling that I was really not going to enjoy my time there. But I also felt this really strong pull that like I had to go there and I had to go and have this experience. And while I was working there, like I did hate my job. Hate's a strong word, but I didn't really enjoy the work that I was doing there. Like I didn't really get along with like a lot of people that I work with. Like there were a couple of cool ones, but
where
like
did you go? Where did you go in New Zealand?
in Wellington. And this is when I met Viola,
My
and I
sister.
met your mom and your other sister as well. And when I was there, they were like the only kind of friends I made. And while I was in New Zealand, like I had this incredible experience outside of work of like I started reading again. Like that's when I got really into kind of mindset, mindfulness, spirituality, yoga, and all of that. And I just soaked up all of this information that if I hadn't have gone to New Zealand, I did not have the space in my life to kind of sit and read a book a week. Like I had like a full schedule. So I needed to go and have this experience where I had this space to absorb all this information, and all of that kind of laid even stronger foundations for everything that I'm doing now. And it led me like to have connections that are really important in my life and business now. So even though I had like 5-month period of my life where I was like, oh my God, I want to go home. I don't want to be living in this other country anymore. It was such an important part of my journey for me to experience.
Oh my gosh, so important. Can I ask what time of the year you were there? What months?
Yes, I was there from May to September, so it was like raining every
Oh,
day.
shitty. Man, that's like, yeah, no, I feel you. Like,
Yeah, and I had to walk to the train like every day as well. So
man, Wellington winters are dark. Like, I'm
yeah,
not a fan. That's why I moved to Auckland.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
there's
yeah.
quite a difference in the
I can
temperature.
laugh about it now, but at the time I was like, oh my God, I have to walk in the wind and the rain. Like you couldn't even hold an umbrella because the wind like moves
Yeah,
the
no,
umbrella.
you can't own an umbrella in Wellington. It's not gonna go down well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mm.
that's so interesting. Thanks for sharing that story with us.
No worries.
And
Um,
what things can we do to balance out and open up our third eye in this chakra?
so what I talked about before about the green light at the heart chakra, we can do the same thing, but with
Right.
an indigo dark purple light at our intuition. And we can also just sit with it. Like we can ask questions to our intuition. So like if there's a certain thing we want guidance on in our life, or if we just want kind of open guidance, like what should we do next, we can ask those questions. And I think from there it goes into knowing how your body or how your intuition is going to communicate those answers with you. For some, like you might see it like really visually when you close your eyes. For others, you might be more audio, so you might like hear the answers. Other people might just have like this clear knowing. Like I feel like for me it's just a clear knowing when,
Mm.
and I kind of know, yeah, like it's hard to explain,
You
but
can
when you
feel
have
it
a
in your
clear
gut.
knowing you
It's a
just
gut
know it.
feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a gut feeling. And then some people might feel it like somewhere else in their body. So yeah, I'm actually like the group program I'm running at the moment is actually all about this. And one of the things that like I've told everyone to do is kind of like have a look back through your history and look at moments in your life where you had a decision to make, and after you made that decision things kind of like didn't go well, or like things didn't end up how you wanted them to. And then like look at the moments before that, and was a message trying to come through for you? Were you getting any signs? And
Right.
then maybe also look at moments where things did go really well. What messages did you get to affirm the decision you were making? Like how did you feel in your at the points of making decisions? And then you might be able to see this trend of how your intuition was coming through. Like you might always have a dream before you make this big life change, or you might,
Wow.
I don't know, like hear things or see things, or yeah, get
That's
a
so
message in
interesting.
some
That's
way.
so interesting. When you were saying that, I was just imagining like the last time an event in my life was like that. And it was like my mind was telling me, no, 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 don't do this. This isn't safe. This isn't right. Like you shouldn't be doing this. But my
Mm.
intuition was like, fuck it, do it. And
Yes.
it was a great decision in the end. It was an amazing decision in the end. So it's funny how sometimes our mind can tell us the opposite.
Definitely, because so our logical mind is limited to the person we are now, to the experiences and conditioning that we've had, whereas our intuition is limitless. Our intuition lives in a realm that is timeless, like time and space doesn't exist, so it knows everything at every point in time. So
Mm,
we can receive intuitive messages that make absolutely no logical sense.
yeah,
Yeah, 100%. Yes.
cool. And what is
Yeah.
the last chakra system?
So just to share one more thing on the third eye, if
Oh
I
yeah, go for
can.
it. Go for it.
Um, so when our third eye, so I said that when it's underactive, we have a distrust, but when our third eye is overactive, we kind of go completely the other way, where we become so logical and so analytical that we're just obsessed with having like a logical reason behind every single thing. And these kind
Oh
of when you have that overactive third eye, it's kind of like you become the know-it-all. Like you have like this explanation and this reason and this like scientific explanation for every single thing in the world, and you don't
yeah. Right.
accept that there's anything beyond that. So
Right.
I see that I see that in a lot of people
For
as
sure.
well in the Western world.
Yes.
So yeah, like I think we have to have that trust that there is wisdom beyond what we know at this point in time and what anyone else knows as well.
For sure. Because how can you ever trust your intuition if you need a scientific, logical explanation to every single thing?
Yes, That's
Yeah.
it.
Some people are obsessed with science. I love science, but I have the other side as well. I believe in intuition and energies and spirituality,
Yes.
obviously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. So then our final main chakra is our crown, which is at the crown of our head. And this is a violet, like a beautiful light purple light. And this is a really special chakra. It's like our chakra of divine connection. So whatever higher power we believe in, that the openness of that chakra is what connects us to that higher power, or to like whatever spiritual beliefs we choose to have.
Yeah.
And when this chakra is underactive, it's like if you don't believe in a higher connection, you can become really shut down and feel really like isolated and alone, because you don't feel like you're connected to anything beyond yourself.
Mm.
And then the other end being overactive, that can really range from like being like kind of feeling depressed or frustrated that you have like this untapped potential, but you just don't know what it is and don't believe in being connected to anything to figure it out. Or it can be like a little like psychotic as well. Like when we have unbalanced crown and third eye, it can that energy is like in our brain, so it can alter like the neuroplasticity of our brain, and yeah,
Wow.
create a range of like mental conditions.
Yes, mental health disorders. Wow. Interesting. Interesting. And
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like in our society could all use a bit of more like alignment and balancing with all the seven chakras.
Yeah.
Does how big of a role does childhood play in which chakras are balanced or open or closed in our adult life?
Yeah, so like so important. So from like zero, from when we're born, or even actually from when we're conceived to when we're 7 years old, is when we learn. I can't remember the exact number, but I think it's like 80 to 90% of everything we will ever
Yeah,
know, we
yeah,
learn up to 7 years old.
yeah.
And
I
what's
think it's
really
85%.
interesting, yeah, what's really interesting is that from when we're conceived to about 6 months old is when we're forming our root chakra. So that's when we're forming all of our beliefs, or our core beliefs around stability and security.
Wow.
From 6 months to about 18 months, we start developing our sacral chakra. So that feminine, connecting to our emotions, feeling
Mm,
abundant and feeling joy. And then up to when we're 7 years old is when we're developing each of the energy around those seven main chakras. So
wow.
yeah, like what we experience in our childhood can play such an important role. Like from like just say our first 6 months of life is really like unstable, like for some reason we don't feel safe, for example, like
Or
that's the
someone,
energy
or
that's creating.
for people who've been adopted, perhaps as well.
Yeah, like definitely if we don't have like a safe and stable center, like when we're, yeah, up to when we're 6 months old, then like that's the energy that's forming that root chakra, like the energy that's governing our feelings of safety and stability for our entire life. And it plays such an important role, like with especially with a baby's connection to their parents, because like I don't think moving from location to location really matters. It's more the baby's like connection to their parents or to a stable person figure
Yeah,
that gives them that feelings of stability.
for sure.
um yeah, and then if they're from when they're like 18 months to like about 2.5, if they have a traumatic experience, that's when their personal power, their solar plexus, is being formed. So they if they have trauma in those years, they might not like have confidence in themselves, or and like it, yeah, it's so important when our chakra energy is being formed in our body. And we as adults, we can always clear and heal that energy. But if we've lived our whole life with it being a certain way, it can be a little bit more difficult to recognize like when there's trauma there, if that's all we've ever experienced.
Exactly. Yeah, that's all you ever know.
Mm.
Interesting. And does balancing out each chakra increase your energy levels at all? Are those related?
Yeah, I feel like because like, yeah, short answer, yes. Slightly longer answer. um, so our prana life force is, so when we breathe in, we're taking in prana,
Hmm.
and when our energy is moving from the base to the crown, so when our energy is moving up, it's really energizing our body. But when our energy is moving down, so from the crown downwards, it's de-energizing to our body. So when we have balanced lower chakras and then we continue to build that balance up to our higher chakras, we feel a lift in energy because we feel, yeah, that lift in life force.
Yeah.
Whereas if our lower chakras are unbalanced and we have to keep pushing energy down, then yeah, we feel like a heaviness. So it's when we release the heaviness, we feel light. And when we feel light, we feel like we have more energy available to be used in whatever way we want to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, fully. Yeah, I believe anything along the lines of increasing your health, whether that be mental or spiritual or physical, you're going to gain energy from that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else you want to say that I haven't asked you about?
Um,
Anything like
I
really
don't think
interesting
so.
and weird about the chakra system that I didn't ask you about?
I think I just find it so interesting. And I think, like, for anyone that wants to kind of take a deep dive, I can highly recommend the book Wheels of Life.
Yeah.
It's a really big book, but it goes into such depth, and that is amazing. And yeah, it's important to know that, like, when I was people, everyone listening, like, you might have recognized some imbalances within yourself as I was talking, and it almost doesn't matter where those imbalances came from. All that matters is that from this point forward, you're committed to having the most healed system that you can, because
Yeah.
those imbalances could have came from childhood, from trauma, from past lives, from like whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. We don't
From
have to
when you were
pinpoint
still
the
in your
moment.
mom's stomach. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
like things that we have no memory of. And it doesn't even matter as long as we're committed to healing going forward. And there's so many different things we can do, like using visualization for like the different lights to start opening and clearing our energy. We can connect with the elements. So like for the root chakra, it's the earth. For the solar
Yeah.
plexus, it's fire. And yeah, there's different things we can do, and we can use affirmations, and yeah, there's all different things we can do. And it's, yeah, if we're committed to having a healed system, then we can do that going forward. And it's all energy. So energy kind of ebbs and flows. We're never going to be like 100% perfect, but if we're mostly balanced, then we can mostly have that free energy to use in the way that we want to in our life.
Exactly. And I really loved that you just touched on that as well, that we don't always need to know, because we can get quite obsessive of like, why am I this way? And where did this bleed come from? And
Mm,
why? And that's like the chakra you were talking about. It was one of them by the brain, like the over analytical, like, and
yeah.
I'm guilty of that as well. Like, I used to think that like I had to know every reason, like for everything, not only like negative things, but like also, exploring my sexuality and my kinks. I'm like, where did this come from? What happened in my child? Like, I'm so
Yeah.
analytical. Like, I'm an introvert, and my mind's just always like racing and questioning why, and where did this come from? But it's sometimes can be just such a waste of energy to do that. So it's super important that, yeah, like as long as um, your quote unquote issues or whatever, something that you want to work on now, it doesn't really matter how it started or where it came from. But yeah, just making that conscious choice to fix that and move forward. So important.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I love that you touched on that. All right. I think that's a wrap.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much. And if people want to get in touch with you and find out more about the chakras or yoga or any of that other amazing stuff you're doing right now, how do they get in touch with you?
So on social media, you can find me at by Rachel White on Instagram and Facebook, or my website, byrachelwhite.com. I do run an online program it's called Gentle Energy Healing, and it's all about the chakras, going into a bit more detail about each one, but also healing them all. And I have something really exciting coming next year where I'm going to run that as a live program. If anyone is interested, reach out and I can give you the details.
Cool.
But yeah, you'll just find most of my info on social media or my website.
Perfect. I will link those in the show notes so people can click on them and find them.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.